Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this fabulous Sunday. Not so much by me, but certainly up by from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England and much of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. And snow removal folks and others should start thinking about the winter time because they're with all these bottlenecks, we're having shortages in a lot of stuff, and salt is on that list. So if you want to pay the lowest prices you can find, head over to Omni True Value Hardware. They're also going to have plenty of Pelleto and Mag ice pellets and flakes. So head to 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. OmniTrueValue.com is the website. Wholesale holiday lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs. And for you contractors out there who want to be in this business, or you already are in this business of decorating people's houses, there will be a holiday lighting open house free event on Tuesday, October the 5th, 2021 from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And you can take a look at all the stuff that they have for Halloween and Christmas. We're getting there, folks. Less than 100 days to go, and they are at 162 or 164 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, New York. And their telephone number is 631-957-5106, and the website is liholidaylighting.com. So, Mr. Rayo, I have a tidbit of gossip that I want to share.
Yes.
So apparently, and I did nothing but laugh out loud over this, but apparently certain political figures on Friday were in an absolute state of panic over the fact that Tropical Storm Odette was forming just off the coast. There's one person in particular who was, as I understand it, driving certain people crazy. So, or a certain office crazy. Let's put it that way. But it's hilarious. It's so funny. It's hilarious. They don't listen to you when they are supposed to, okay? And they don't listen to you when they're not supposed to. You cannot win with these people. You just can't.
I know you're not going to make a mention of who this particular political icon is, but may I ask, did this political icon come from New Guernsey?
No.
Oh, no. All right.
No. Okay. Yeah. The answer no is to the question, did he come from New Jersey, and not if you can ask. Bozo, always laughs, never frowns. Bozo, the clown.
The clown.
If you've watched it, if you watch the show long enough, you could probably start to put two and two together and figure out who we're talking about.
Yes.
But anyhow, seriously, good Lord. Anyway, Peta. We have Tropical Storm Peta this morning, and we also have a depression way out in the Atlantic. And the only thing I will say about Peter is Peter is going to do the same. I think Peter is going to probably do the same thing that Larry did, in that if you think back to what happened with Larry, it kind of built the ridge up along the East Coast and just sort of slowed the progress of cold fronts down by a day or so because of a stronger ridge. And I think I've already seen this reflected in the models from yesterday, where, kind of rides up somewhere somewhere west of 60 or 65 west. And as a result, we got this cold front that's supposed to come through for the middle of the week. And, GFS was looking at maybe coming through late Wednesday night. Now it's been pushed back to Thursday night because of that little bit of ridging. But I mean, other than that, it kind of looks like a relatively uneventful late summer, early autumn type of week.
Did you enjoy seeing the description of Peter, by the way, by the National Hurricane Center, who referred to it as disheveled Peter?
Oh,
I love that. I love that.
well, it does.
Disheveled.
It actually does look. You know what? Since they just
If any of you have ever seen me, if any of you have ever seen me, and I know none of you have, but if any of you have ever seen me, immediately after I wake up in the morning and get out of bed, that is the perfect definition of disheveled, and that's what I immediately thought when I saw that commentary about Peter, disheveled Peter heading west northwest.
it is.
Yeah, sometimes when I get out of bed, I say, "All right, where am I going? Oh yeah, that way, west."
And then of course is your hair when you get up in the morning. I imagine it doesn't stay
No,
this way it is now all night long. I mean, unless you wear a hairnet at night, I doubt it. But
no. Let me tell you that this is the last couple of years has been a whole new experience for me, because when I used to go to work and I'd put on like a pile of hairspray. I'd come home, go to bed. I'd wake up in the morning, and it was like what they used to say about Dr. Bill Gutch, who used to do the weather on Channel 7 many years ago. They said, "My God, look at that hair that he has." And it's the same thing, is that they could send him out in a Category 3 hurricane and would still not move a single bit. And that was basically with me. I'd have basically the same hairstyle. But now that I'm not on television anymore and I'm not putting that gunk in my hair, yeah, you don't want to you don't want to see what I look like when I come out of bed. Another example of disheveled, folks.
well, I don't have that issue because I keep my hair minimalist, and
Yes.
it's very easy to pick out. It's very easy to pull out all the insects and the birds' nests and all the rest of it that's in there.
Oh my God, Joe! Yesterday we put the pool to bed yesterday. We closed it down, and I got to tell you something. I immediately after we did that, I went right into the shower because, Joe, I don't know. This year the mosquitoes are enjoying. Usually they go after Renata, and when they went after Renata, I'd say, well, I guess they prefer German food to Italian food. But this year, they've been going after me, and my God, I'm like scratching all over the place. I'm using something called um, oh, what is it? Comes in a little tube, Bite Away or something. You rub it on the bite. It works pretty good. But you talk about the mosquitoes and the bugs and everything else. This year, it's been a first class year for them, at least here at the homestead.
Yeah, for me, some days I get, they get at me. Some days they don't. I haven't really I haven't really figured out what the common thread is as to why on certain days they come after me and then on other days they stay away from me. It might have to do with how much garlic I consume. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but we'll see. Welcome to everybody on the chat board, by the way, on this Sunday. I'm thinking on a beautiful day like today. Hopefully, you'll get to spend some time outdoors. So let's take a look at Tropical Storm Peter. As the Hurricane Center did say, it does look kind of disheveled, and the loop sort of indicates that. First things first, Joe, I don't know if you noticed a new advisory, a special emergency advisory. I always like to call that, they send emergency planes, emergency advisory that they sent out at 9 o'clock because apparently the center was about well over 100 miles further south than where they had it originally. And if you look, the center of Peter is pretty much exposed. There's a band of thunderstorms, a very small band of thunderstorms on the northeast side that's like this little arm that's coming up and around. But virtually the entire center is exposed away from the stronger convection that's to the north and northeast. And I have to tell you, looking at the upper air with this, and the upper air across the Atlantic, it's hard to make a case. I talked about this on Thursday with the system in its formative stages. It's really hard to make a case for this thing getting much beyond where it is now in terms of a minimal tropical storm, or maybe it comes up a little bit, but down the road, the conditions for both this and the depression that's off the African coast, which is a million miles away anyway, it is not going to be supportive for intensification.
No, it's not. No, absolutely not. And incidentally, one of the I'm believe it or not, I am an AOL subscriber, not subscriber. I mean,
Oh,
you
so
can get
you're the
AOL for
one.
free.
You're the one.
And Odette is the third story from the top, believe it or not. It's actually the second story from the top. Out of 48 stories, this is number 2. Tropical storm Odette slogs offshore of mid-Atlantic coast.
Oh.
And you know,
Odette is Odone.
I have not opened. Exactly. But I'm wondering whether or not I haven't opened the story, whether or not the mention of the gentleman or the person of interest, the political person, may have been mentioned in this story or whatever. But I have not seen that. So,
oh, good Lord.
Anyway, you're right. Odette is O'Done, or as I said after Desi Arnaz had passed away, he baba'd his last
Lou. By the way, kind of along the same lines, I got the shear map up. I'll come back to that in a second. But I mean, this is just maybe a throwback to our television days and when we were kids and watching TV. The Lucy Show was the show after I Love Lucy, starring Lucille Ball, and for the first couple of years, Vivian Vance was with her, and then Vivian Vance left the show, and then they kind of changed they changed the format of it. And on the original Lucy Show, she was a widow with 2 children, and the actor Jimmy Garrett played Jerry Carmichael. And he also shows up on. He also has done a lot of other episodes, other shows. Among them, The Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, a few other things. Anyway, I read this morning that he passed away at the age of 67. So, if you're a real television trivia addict, that's who that was. He played Jerry Carmichael.
He was kind of like Chuck Cunningham. Remember from Happy Days, the first season of Happy Days,
Mm-hmm.
Richie or the Cunninghams had he had an older brother, and all of a sudden after the first season, the older brother disappeared and was never referred to again.
Right. Well,
that was Chuck.
In this instance, they were instrumental. He and I forgot the name of the actress that played the daughter. In high school, and he was kind of in grammar school, and the 3 of them. That actually was for 3 years. So they kind of redid the show when Vivian Vance said she didn't want to do the series anymore, and she left. But yeah, also I'm thinking about the oldest son in My 3 Sons, which they married off.
Tim Considine.
Right, they married off, and then they had to bring a 3rd son, and they brought in Was it Stanley?
Ernie.
Yeah, Ernie was played by Stanley Livingston.
The Livingston brothers.
Yeah, Barry was
and Stanley.
Chip, and Stanley. Stanley, they wrote him in by where they wind up adopting him, which is right. Kind of an interesting thing. Okay, let's get back to PETA. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, as a trivia question, who did Tim Considine, who was known, by the way, on the show as Mike? It was actually a Mike Douglas before there was a Mike Douglas on television. But who did Mike, the oldest son, marry? Or who was the actress who played the new daughter-in-law of Fred McMurray on My 3 Sons?
Oh, you mean Tina Cole?
No, Tina Cole married.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Hold on. Oh, so you're asking who his character married? Wasn't it?
We know.
Wasn't it one of the ones that went to Petticoat Junction? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yes.
Okay. So it was better. It was one of them. It was better. Was it Meredith McRae?
It was Meredith McRae.
Okay.
Who, by the way, I discovered Girls in 1969. I don't know how many of you out there are Met fans, but if you remember 1969, aside from the fact that they won the World Series that year, all through that year, the New York Mets had a sponsor, Royal Crown Cola. And each time they ran that commercial for Royal Crown Cola, who did you see? You saw Meredith McRae in an exceedingly tight red dress, swinging her hips around and holding up a bottle of Royal Crown Cola. Escape, come over. It's a mad.
It's a mad.
And I got to tell you something, Joe. Even on those few days in '69 where the Mets were getting creamed by another team like 11-3 or whatever, I'd stick around and watch the broadcast, if for nothing else than to watch and wait for that Royal Crown Cola ad with Meredith McRae. And I think every kid, let me change that, every boy, 12, 13, 14, stuck around to watch Meredith McRae and that Royal Crown Cola commercial. But how many of you on the chat board remember that commercial? And by the way, I have looked for that commercial on YouTube. My sister says YouTube is our life, and you see things on YouTube that you remember from childhood. I've been looking and waiting to see that Royal Crown commercial on YouTube. It has yet to appear, but it will. It will. Someday it will.
And then there was always there was always trying to come to grips with the fact that on the open of Petticoat Junction, the three daughters were bathing in the town water tank.
Exactly.
In people's drinking water. And you see their hands come out, pull the towels. So they're just like swimming around naked in the town water tank, which brought water to
not only.
Good Lord, whoever came,
not only the three girls were up there, but the dog was up there too.
Yes.
The dog was up there.
Oh, good God! Makes no sense. All right.
Lots of curves, you bet.
Right.
And even more when you
get to the junction. All right. So as far as Peter is concerned, so I'm pulling up the wind shear in the upper atmosphere, and of course, you're going to see two obvious problems. I've circled Peter, which is the system to the left, and then the tropical depression, which is the system to the right. And there are two very strong upper air troughs that are in play here. Now, the first one that I just drew in is the one that's swinging down south of the Azores, and that's going to impact the depression in a couple of days. The second one is not quite there yet, but we're going to see a very deep trough develop along the East Coast. Right now, there's a trough, an upper low just to the northwest of Peter, so it's actually creating some southerly shear here. And that's probably part of the reason why you're seeing the system exposed, but it's not enough to be a killer as far as a storm system is concerned. But look at this deep trough that sets up when we get to the middle part of next week. And it just really, the upper air conditions here are just not conducive for these systems to do very much in terms of development. And with respect to the model track guidance, which we have here for Peter, the latest model track guidance. Now, Joe, this is one thing we probably should pay a little attention to. If we do wind up with a weaker exposed low-level center like this, and of course, we just said how they had to, they relocated the center 100 miles further to the south versus what they were going off the satellite estimates. What we'll have to watch to see is if this thing doesn't develop very much, if the low-level center holds up together, that low-level center may wind up going more west, which is, I think, why you see the model track guidance bringing some of the model track guidance bringing it closer to 70 before it kind of takes the turn to the northeast. But at the same time, you're talking about a very weak system here, if that's the case. So, and the intensity guidance, by the way, is not really all that bullish here with regards to strengthening. You do have, it looks like about half the models keep this as maybe a 35 to 45 knot tropical storm over the next 4 days, and maybe a little bit less than half and more than half actually weaken this back to a tropical depression over time. So I'm not going to get worked up over this or spend a whole lot of time worrying about Peter in terms of formulating any kind of long-term forecast outlook.
Right, and after Peter we have Rose, and after Rose we have Sam. The next two names on our, and then after that I think it's Teresa. So those are the three names coming our way after Peter does his thing. And it doesn't look like Peter's going to do much of anything
Yes.
in the coming days ahead.
So on the satellite today, it's nice and clear from Maine to to northern North Carolina. Really, you start to get into some high clouds, and what you're seeing through the Gulf states there is still the remnants of Nicholas, which have just been sitting here, kind of waiting for something in the upper atmosphere to get all of this south and east. What it's done for me is that it's kept me in a lot of clouds for the last few days. So my temperatures in the afternoon have been pretty much getting only into the 70s, and the nights have been down in the low 60s, which is pretty nice. But that's where all the moisture seems to be contained. Now we do have some action going on up in the northwest, and that is with energy and a storm system and a cold front that have rolled into the Pacific Northwest, and that will probably be setting things up in the east for later this week. And hopefully it'll get the rest of this moisture out of the way. But in the meantime, you've got low humidity back, you've got sunshine, nice day from Maine down into North Carolina, and you're going to see the humidity be subdued probably into the first part of Tuesday, I think, Joe, and then we're going to start to get the high out to the east. The flow will start to turn slowly but surely from northeast to south, and that means the humidity goes up, and we'll start to throw in maybe some low cloud, more a nighttime low clouds and drizzle and fog along the coast, and eventually, maybe some rain towards later Thursday night into Friday morning.
Right. Until then, it looks like it's going to be nice and dry. By the way, after yesterday, we got to 83 degrees locally here yesterday with moderate to high levels of humidity. Boy, I mean, it was absolutely humid, very uncomfortable for the time that we were out, closing down the pool. I know just moments before we did close down the pool, Rhonda gave her last farewell to it by that we had one of these floats that you can lie down on, and she was like just floating around the pool in the extreme humidity and the low to mid 80s. Now this morning when I stepped outside to get the newspaper, I came back in and I opened the door and I said, "You better call up Fred and tell him to turn up the heat. It's freezing out there, Lucy. It's freezing out there." And it was pretty darn chill. I mean, what a change from what we had yesterday. And by the way, Joe, it was interesting. We had a brief shower that moved across the area around 7:30, 8 o'clock last night. And that was obviously the weather front that ushered in this lovely air mass from Canada. And around 10 o'clock or so, looked outside, I thought it snowed because everything was like lit up, it had that whitish look.
Yeah.
What it was that moon, which is approaching full. It will be, in fact, we will have the full harvest moon of September, even though it's not officially fall until Wednesday, but we have the harvest full moon coming up tomorrow night. But tonight, that sky should again be lit up with that brilliantly clear and bright, nearly full moon.
In the meantime, we've got some showers, and actually they're right over Atlanta and going north and west. I'm in the northeast corner of Georgia, so I'm fine here. It doesn't actually have the sun out the last I checked. Okay, now the clouds have come back in, but it's, we had breaks of sunshine for a little while this morning. But again, just kind of leftover rain from Nicholas. It's particularly concentrated over the state of Tennessee. The far west and the far east seem to be out of it, so it's just sort of right in the middle there. And we do have some flash flood watches that are at work there. Some shower activity off the Georgia and North Florida coast, right along the Gulf states, and we're seeing also up in the Pacific Northwest with some showers and some occasional patches of heavier rain further to the east in eastern Oregon and across southern Idaho and over into Montana. And I imagine in some of the higher elevations, some of this is in the form of the white stuff. The folks at WPC, as we take a look at the rainfall forecast, everybody east of the Mississippi is in line for some rather decent to substantial rainfalls, and you'll notice that there is a large area that runs from northern Alabama, northeast up through Ohio and into eastern Michigan, of 3 to 5 inches of rain. And that's because the next cold front is going to be so slow moving. And actually, Joe, the WPC folks have some areas, some pockets of a couple of inches plus in parts of northern New Jersey, northeastern PA, up into the Catskills and on up the Hudson Valley for the next 7. And there's also some tropical moisture sitting up off the southeast coast, as the models are hinting at maybe some kind of low off the Florida coast later on late next week, and a little bit of a little inverted trough that brings in some moisture from off the Atlantic. And in the west, it calms down a bit after this shot of moisture that came in late last week and moved in through this weekend. So it looks like much of this is all going to be concentrated in about 36 hours worth of time. So especially for our area, I think. So we're okay, at least into when, as far as widespread rainfall, there's not going to be anything through Wednesday.
I saw a few forecasts that suggested that we might have showers later Wednesday, but I think quite frankly, most if not all of the wet weather is going to hold off until after midweek. And I agree with you. Thursday, Friday look wet or showery or rainy or whatever. But I think for the first 3 days of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, dry weather, lovely weather, and of course also, Joe, fall will officially arrive just after 3:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday. So we still have a couple of more hours of couple of more days officially of summer to enjoy. And one thing I noticed, lots of people, a couple of weathercasters here, pointing out that the sun now is setting before 7 o'clock in the evening, and it will not set after 7 o'clock again until sometime in mid or late March of next year. Well, so, the heck with it. I mean, yeah. I just do away with daylight saving time completely, and just let the sun do what it's supposed to be doing. And I'm cringing about some of these politicos who are pushing for year-round daylight saving time. I can't imagine that they would do that, but
my sunrise, I'm dark here in the morning. I wake up between 6 and usually 6 and 6:30, and I'm up out of bed. I'm dark here well past 7 o'clock now. My sunrises are like at around 7:15, 7:20, or at least high enough where they get over. I don't know what the official sunrise time is here, but offhand,
you wait until the end of October, early November. The sun sets late. It used to be like you'd wait until the early January to see the sun rise at its latest. Not anymore, because of daylight saving time and the fact again that they pushed this now into, or shoved it down our throats into early November. That the latest sunrises now come in early November. I don't have a table in front of me, Joe, but from where you are, because you're longitude 80 degrees west or whatever, you're probably not going to see sunrise until you're probably not going to see sunrise until after 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I know. If I was on daylight time year round, you come in the dead of December and January, my sunrises here wouldn't be until 9 a.m. 9 a.m.
Right.
Okay. So if the argument here is whether should they go to daylight time in the Eastern time zone, okay, or go to assuming that or go to daylight time in the Central time zone. In other words, change time zones. This is all.
And you realize that if any of you ever go to China,
it's all one time.
It's all one time. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Can you imagine being all on one time for the entire United States? That's what China does. It's crazy.
Yeah, you know what the solution is? It's because we have these preconceived notions of time relative to our body clocks. They just go to just Zulu time, go to Greenwich Mean Time. This way, it's the same time everywhere around the world in terms of the number. Okay, you just have to get used to the fact that you're not going to bed at 10Z, because if okay, so let's it requires a whole new. I think there's a fairly standard argument to just put everyone on the Greenwich time clock and go from there. But you know what? That's a conversation for another day. Let's finish up the weather, because I think everybody, this is one of those really nice days, and I'm thinking since we really don't have any big storms going on, a lot of folks would much rather be outdoors than listening to us pontificate endlessly, although we do it
Oh my
exceptionally
God,
well.
a $5 word.
Yes.
Wow.
Right. Anyhow, the Storm Prediction Center, marginal risk, Eastern Dakotas, Minnesota, and northern Nebraska for today. For the next, there's not a whole lot of severe weather risks going on this week, which is good. You got marginal risk tomorrow from the Western Lakes down into eastern Kansas, western Missouri. And on day 3, we're looking at no risk being indicated. And I think, if I remember the last time I looked, but I'll look again, they've got potential too low for day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, and day 8. So we haven't seen that in a while, where they've had potential too low for every day in the long range. So it doesn't really look all that threatening as far as severe weather is concerned. So let's just run through the GFS model over the next week to 10 days. One of the things I noticed from the last time I was looking yesterday and the day before, there were some strong indications from the model that we were going to go into a interesting blocking pattern for the end of the month and the beginning of October. It's kind of delayed that a little bit. So in the meantime, to me, Joe, this just really looks like typical late September, big high offshore. You can see on the lower right on the GFS from overnight, I'm thinking that's probably Peter that passes north of the islands and actually gets towards 70 west to 70 west. And I think this is because of the fact that it's just got a much weaker low-level system that is moving, more westerly rather than northerly. Here comes our front with some showers and rain, and maybe even a bout of heavy rain there. Look how long it takes on this, by the way. It takes. Here we are, Wednesday afternoon. There's showers into eastern PA, northwest New Jersey, but you see where the heavier rain is through Indiana, Ohio. And then the low just kind of turns northward, and the front gets hung up. Now in the last run of the GFS, it's still not even through here on Friday, early Friday before it goes by. So no wonder WPC is doing what it's doing. And then after that, looks like we get into a nice dry high for the weekend, round of lower humidity, and then a reinforcement comes in next week, which would be nice. And then we sort of try to go through the whole thing all over again as we now are at the point on the maps around October 3rd or 4th, some kind of wave up. Who knows if that's even real, but we'll see. But the overall pattern is not one that I'm overly concerned about. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's and of course it'll be apropos that we'll have that lovely, dry, fair weather move back in next week, next weekend. Next weekend will be the first full weekend of fall. So we're into our waning hours of the last weekend of summer, Joe. And all things considered, considering that we had so much rain and so much humidity and lots of very uncomfortable streaks of weather this summer. It's kind of it's almost atypical of the summer of 2021 to have a day, at least up here in the tri-state area, like what we're experiencing and what we will experience this afternoon. It's a lot more like fall than summertime.
Right. New advisory on Peter, and it's at 17.6 and 56.5. Top winds are 45 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 17. They haven't really changed. They kind of maybe got a little bit more left in before it sort of takes the turn. And you'll notice that on the last 2 forecast periods, Thursday and Friday, with that increasing shear, assuming that materializes, you're looking at the Hurricane Center weakening it to a depression. And the headline, again, Joe says, disheveled Peter heading west-northwest, expected to pass north of the Lesser Antilles early this week. And the depression likely to become a tropical storm tonight or Monday, in case you're interested in this. For those of you who frequent the Cabo Verde Islands, you don't have to worry too much because it's to the west of that. 13-2, 28-8, already moving north-northwest. They're moving north-northwest from 13 degrees north and 28 west. That kind of tells you this is not going to be coming anywhere close to us. Indeed, same issue here. Tropical storm strength, leave it there through Wednesday, and then weaken it to a depression, at least according to the folks at the Hurricane Center. And again, with all that shear out in the Atlantic, it's hard to envision how it won't do that. That is, how it won't weaken over time. But we'll see.
We'll see.
Now, where is Mrs. Rayo so we can do the cooking thing? I haven't even really. I'm cooking with the Jeopardy with Mrs. Rayo. The chairman
Well,
sent
she's
me.
watching upstairs, and as soon as she hears this, she'll be heading downstairs and into this room as quickly.
She'll come in, she'll come in with her gown that she got from Phipps department store, and
Hello, can you hear us up there? I hear her rumbling around on the kitchen table, but
oh God.
Normally she's down here by now. I could use the special in studio intercom to ask her if she is. Oh, there she is.
Renata Rayo, please report to the ticket counter in the main lobby.
Yes, and so I will hand off the headphones and microphone to her, dear. Here you are.
Hey there.
Hello, Renata. How are you, dear?
Oh, I'm just fine.
Yes,
it's a glorious day up here. Boy, it really feels great.
It is, and you should be out enjoying it, which I'm sure you'll do at some point later today.
Oh, yeah, I've got tons of work outside to do.
Awesome. So let's Cooking Briller Jeopardy with Renata Rayo. We have 7 questions today, so you need to get 5 of those right to consider a passing grade.
Oh, no. What's my topic?
These are general questions regarding cooking. So let's see how we go here. What is G? G-H-E-E. G-H-E-E. So
it's pronounced
I have your choice. Oh, is it ghee? I'm sorry. G-H-E-E. Is it coconut oil and butter mixed? Is it clarified butter or grass-fed butter?
It's a clarified butter.
And you are correct. What are the two main ingredients in fresh pasta? Okay, is it eggs and flour, eggs and potatoes, flour and butter?
It's eggs and flour.
Eggs and flour. That is correct. If it was gnocchi, then it might be eggs and potatoes, but with some flour.
Yeah.
What is a trotter? What is a trotter? Trotter. And we know that a trotter is something you bet on in Yonkers Raceway, but
yeah, that's what I thought it was.
is it a tongue? Is it tongue? Is it feet? I won't show you mine. Or is it liver?
I've never heard of this term.
No,
I don't think it's tongue, and I'm gonna just say feet because of the name.
Exactly. It is. I was just gonna say. And of those 3 things, I have never had tongue, and I have never had feet.
We had that a lot growing up.
Really?
No, I've never had. Yeah, we had that a lot growing up.
No, liver.
It was a real, and you don't see it too often in the stores anymore.
Down here, you do. Down here in North Georgia.
Okay.
Of course, they'll eat anything. The squirrels won. It's not that many squirrels around these days. I'm not sure why. This I know you know. How would someone spatchcook? Well, is that how you pronounce it? Spatchcook? SPATH.
Spatchcock, a chicken.
Spatchcock, a chicken. Remove the backbone and flatten. Break down into smaller parts, or stuff it.
No, you have to break the backbone and push it down.
Right, you splatch it. Yeah, the verb splatch. What do you call meat cooked and stored in its own fat? Is it basting? Is it au jus? Or is it confit?
Meat. What was it?
Meat cooked and stored in its own fat.
Stored in its own fat.
Basting, au jus, or en jus, or confit.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna say confit.
And that is correct. What is the purpose of ginger served with sushi? I'd rather, to me, it's just like, okay, well, I'd rather eat ginger than have sushi, eat sushi. I'm not a sushi fan. So what is the purpose of ginger served with sushi? A, to be added to soy sauce. B, to be used as an optional topping. Or C, to cleanse the palate.
Probably to cleanse the palate.
Hey, yes, that makes total sense.
Yeah, in Chinese cooking, they also use orange.
Yes.
A lot of times in some Chinese restaurants will serve you sliced oranges after certain portions of the meal.
Right.
Yeah.
What animal is used to hunt truffles? Dogs, cats, or pigs?
I've heard of certain types of dogs doing it, but also certain types of pigs. But I'm going to say dogs.
I guess there are more pigs than dogs, because the answer is C. But yeah, I've heard of both. Anyhow,
right.
The bonus question today is Mother Briller's first name. Is it Sandy, Sunny, Stormy, Windy?
Well, I'm going to go for Sandy.
And you would have been, and you are absolutely correct. By the way, so I did. You would think I would have done this more often than not, but it was always done by somebody else. My mother in particular, so she would make pizza, and I could even remember growing up. So I actually have made my own pizza for the first time. Maybe I did it once or twice before, and I got to tell you, it came out pretty good. But
it's not hard.
No, but and I talked to someone that I met here who is into making pizza and is actually from the New York area. So we've discussed the whole how the pizza in New York is different because of the fact that it's the water. The water quality makes a huge difference, and I agree with that. But I always had the issue I had was the fact that, and I asked him about this, that when you use mozzarella, I never seem to be able to get it to melt the way it does when when you're going at a pizzeria. And instead the mozzarella is kind of just like melts and sort of plops there. So anyway, he suggested, and it worked, because it was perfect when I did it yesterday. I made 2 pies yesterday, and he said 3 parts. First of all, use dried mozzarella, not a fresh mozzarella. So it's 3 parts mozzarella to either 1 part of mild provolone, okay, or 1 part right, or 1 part of mild Munster cheese. And those 2 cheeses are very stringy when they melt, so they melt and combine with the mozzarella. And I have to tell you, I use the Munster cheese because it's cheaper. I used provolone, and then I ran out of provolone, and I had Munster. But I could not taste the difference between the Munster or the provolone. The mozzarella dominates that flavor. and it was
Yeah.
very.
I'm usually not a
stingy.
provolone fan. Both of us don't like provolone too much, but it would have to be a mild cheese to mix in with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And the fact that it's low you mentioned low moisture or dried drier mozzarella. The one that has more moisture has water in it, and you don't want to put the water on
right,
top of the.
right. So when I
yeah.
corrected that, and also when I made a pizza earlier this week, and I put I was trying to figure it out. I put too much sauce, so I cut it back. I actually cut it in half, and it was more than enough. So yeah, you be careful how much
There's
sauce.
some pizzerias. There are some pizzerias out there that make, I'm going to call it an upside down pizza. They put the cheese down first and the sauce on top and sprinkled on top just some
Yeah,
Parmesan.
no,
And that's very tasty too.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah, I sauce first. Also, don't use. I use my own sauces. I make it from scratch because if you use a store bought jarred sauce, it's going to taste like sugar. It's going to taste like sugar. That's one of the things I've noticed with pizza down here. They're using whatever they're using as far as their tomato sauce. It's got too much sugar in it, and it's horribly sweet, and it's so wrong. So my sauce does not. I don't have that problem when I make it from scratch. But um, my pizza friend suggested, and it makes sense. Don't use a sauce that is not completely cooked, because it'll finish cooking in the oven. The actual tomato sauce.
It'll dry out in the oven.
Right.
And yes.
So that made sense as well. Anyway, just sharing that with. I buy my raw pizza dough balls and
everybody out there.
I know, because Bill Rogers on the chat board. I know he keeps asking me to do some kind, another one of these cooking videos. One of these days, I'll get the energy to do it, and somebody to hold the camera for me, because
hold the camera.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
because it's kind of hard to do.
You gotta have somebody to move the camera around. Yeah.
Right. It's kind of
that. You gotta have a couple of cameras, and you gotta know how to do the editing.
Right. It's one thing to do something where you're just like seasoning it and then throwing it in the pan, okay? And it's about how you season something, because then you can do it with one. I can do that myself and just talk over it. But if I'm doing stuff that requires browning and then putting additional stuff into the oven, into the mix, you got to have somebody to hold the camera for you. So anyway, I have a pork shoulder in the oven that I put in at 8 o'clock this morning, and it won't be ready for another 6 hours. So
yep, you have slow and low.
Yes, 225 degrees. It's in there. So
all right.
You have a good day.
I'm gonna put Mr. Rayo back on.
Okay. Take care.
Here we go. Let's switch over.
Bye.
Bye. He says bye.
Oh, look at the cup of coffee that I'm using. The coffee cup that I'm using.
Very nice. My version of that cup broke.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the four Easter
cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I dropped it or somebody dropped it or whatever it was, but anyway. Yeah, and I don't have. I could go ahead and make it again, but I really don't want to. Not right now. All right. You know what? Let's call it a day, Joe. So everybody, thanks for being here on this Sunday, giving up part of your beautiful Sunday of weather in the Northeast. So get out there and enjoy. And Joe and I will see you tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. Okay?
We will be here. We will be here.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.